History has seen empires rise and fall, armies clash across continents, and generals etch their names into the stone of time. But nothing compares to the scale and audacity of the largest invasion in human history. It was called Operation Barbarossa. On June 22, 1941, as the sun rose over the vast plains of Eastern Europe, over 3 million Axis troops, 3,500 tanks, and 2,500 aircraft surged across an 1,800-mile front, smashing into the western borders of the Soviet Union. Hitler's objective was clear: obliterate the Soviet state, seize its resources, and secure Lebensraum, living space, for the Third Reich. It was a gamble soaked in arrogance. Hitler believed the Soviet Union would collapse in a matter of weeks. Stalin, meanwhile, was caught off guard, despite multiple warnings from spies, defectors, and even Winston Churchill. The early days were brutal. Entire Soviet divisions were encircled and annihilated. Kiev, Minsk, and Smolensk fell one by one. German panzer divisions raced ahead, slicing deep into Soviet territory. Civilians were left in terror, soldiers in chaos. Roads choked with refugees, skies darkened with Luftwaffe bombers, and the scorched earth policy turned villages into ashes. But what Hitler didn't expect was the sheer will of the Soviet people. Factories were dismantled and moved east of the Ural Mountains, beyond German reach. Fresh Soviet troops were mobilized by the millions. And as the German advance slowed near Moscow, the Russian winter began to bite. Temperatures dropped to -40 degrees Celsius. Engines froze. Guns jammed. Horses collapsed. German soldiers, ill-equipped and exhausted, were now facing not just an army but a nation fighting for survival, with cold, hunger, and desperation as their weapons. And still, the war was far from over. By the end of 1941, Hitler's dream of a swift victory had frozen, quite literally, on the doorstep of Moscow. But the worst was yet to come. The Soviet Union began to strike back. Reinforcements poured in, many fresh from the east. The Battle of Moscow was the first turning point where German forces were halted and pushed back. But the scale of the war only grew. Operation Barbarossa spiraled into a war of attrition unlike anything the world had seen. Cities like Leningrad endured 900 days of siege. Entire towns vanished under artillery and bombing raids. In the south, Hitler diverted his forces toward Stalingrad, where the bloodiest battle in human history would unfold. But Operation Barbarossa had already failed in its core objective. It did not crush the Soviet Union. It did not capture Moscow. And it certainly did not secure quick victory. Instead, it awakened a sleeping giant, one with unmatched manpower, industrial grit, and unbreakable resolve. Soviet counteroffensives began pushing westward. German casualties mounted. Morale shattered. Supply lines crumbled. Hitler's army was now bleeding out in a land it could never fully conquer. By the time the dust settled years later, over 30 million people had died on the Eastern Front. Operation Barbarossa was not just the largest invasion in history, it was the most catastrophic gamble of the Second World War, igniting a chain of events that would ultimately bring Nazi Germany to its knees. And in the icy fields of Eastern Europe, history learned a harsh lesson: the bigger the ambition, the greater the fall. Please like and subscribe my channel for more battle story and support me. Your valuable support will be highly appreciated.